Right now, we're going to talk about some IT with Mike Hammond from my office. He's going to go over that, and so try to stay awake.
Okay, like Kevin said, my name is Mike Hammond. I'm the principal in charge of our IT audit and security group. So we are not accountants. Everyone in our team has some type of IT background or IT audit background. Most of what we do is try to come in and break into your dealership. You know, we're trying to find the weaknesses in your network and let you know what those are before someone else does. And so, you know, we talk about what's changed. I pulled up this slide deck from 2 years ago to look at what has changed this year, or this year from the last 2 years. And there were really two things. One, I have a lot less hair now. And two, I spent my time during COVID going through and racing cars. And so before I get into the IT, I'll show you what it's like. Let's see. So this is up in Tamworth, New Hampshire, doing about 110, 120 miles an hour straight towards a wall before you have to slam on the brakes, immediately hit a right-hand turn doing 70 to 90 miles an hour, hoping that the car tires don't let go and you go sliding into the wall. This was really exciting. We rented BMW M3s for 2 days and raced around this track trying to beat our times. There's about 60 people doing it, so you've got another 15 to 20 cars on the track at the same time with you. And obviously I'm ahead of everyone, which is why you see no one near me at the time. So that was definitely pretty fun to do, but as far as what's changed on the IT side, not much. We are still breaking into your computers, into your networks, the exact same way we did a couple years ago. And the years before that, and the years before that. So I'll go through some of the ways that we've been doing it and some of the ways that we're continuing to do it. Before I get to that, though, I want to talk about who this guy is. So this person, anyone know who this is? All right, so this guy was recently fired or quit because he was fired, something, from the US government. He was part of a software development program in DC that was going to revolutionize the way the government would make software and use software. So he said, coming from the way Facebook and Twitter and those companies do software development, let's take that and make the government more agile and be able to roll out software and be more secure quickly. He lasted a little bit of time before, again, he was either fired or quit because he was fired, because he didn't see that the government was moving as fast as he could, and he wasn't able to roll out the programs that he wanted to. Part of what he what he came up with was basically saying, like, look, we've already lost the IT war against China. In 5 years, they will have us completely beat, and there's really nothing we can do about it. And so he basically gave up. I don't think that's the case. I think that we still have the opportunity to be able to invest in IT security, invest in the ability to work with our people to make sure that we don't get taken over by other countries. Unfortunately, this guy doesn't agree. He left. So I want to be able to talk about what are we finding in your networks to give you those ideas to be able to patch the systems, work with your IT people to be able to prevent this inevitable doom from 5 years from now, right? We still come on to your networks, and within the first day, maybe the second day, we're already into your DMS systems, we're into your CFO's computers, we're already pulling the key information, those crown jewels. Within 1 day, we're able to do this. And unfortunately, the way that we're able to do it has still been consistently the same year over year. So we talk about the ways that we're able to get in. Often it is still through phishing campaigns. We send fake emails to your employees that we either harvest through LinkedIn, harvest through your website, or I'll show you a little bit later where we're able to get them off the dark web. And we're sending these emails to your employees with some type of snazzy email in there. Click this link. You want a free Amazon gift card. You need to reset your password. We're going to reboot your servers. Whatever it is, we're getting you to click on the links. And the minute you click on the links, we're able to send a piece of information to your computer to take it over. And once we take it over, we then move across throughout your network. This is definitely the most common way that we do it. It's also the most common way that our adversaries do it. Once we are, so we start our campaigns by trying to get in remotely from across the internet. That's how most other companies are doing, or most other adversaries are doing it. But when we come on site, we're also looking at the physical network jacks in your waiting rooms. We're still finding that those are connected to the production network or the Wi-Fi access. This week, the week before, we were out at a dealership that was 100% sure that the guest network was not connected to the production network. We got on the guest Wi-Fi, you know, it's a dealership-guest, and we were able to connect to the production environment. So we're still seeing all of your desktops, all of your servers, all of the DMS. We can see all of that from the waiting room. And so because it's Wi-Fi, we don't even need to be in the waiting room. We can be across the street in the Starbucks and just sit there and connect to your dealership from across the street. If we can do it, other people are doing it as well. We are still able to find the cameras, shut them off, redirect them, and then scanning from the outside. So we're able to, and I've got some screenshots where I'll show you that not only are we doing it, but other groups are scanning your networks from the outside to try to find a way in. And we're still able to do the same things that we were before. We're still stealing documents from your servers as soon as we get onto them. We're still finding unencrypted backup tapes. We're finding unencrypted data. So most of this is, you know, you don't want to have someone steal your information, and you know, you'll end up with a bad day. But worse, this is a violation of mass law. If you have unencrypted personal information of Massachusetts residents, whether it's customers or employees, and that you're supposed to be securing that information, if it leaves your network, you've now violated the Mass 201 CMR 17 law. So at that point, you know, you've violated what you have in the WISP. And at this point, I'm hoping that you have the WISP, right? That written information security program, that document, that checklist that says you know where your data is, you know how to secure it, and you test it once a year. That document is, or that requirement's been around, I think, since 2009 now. So hopefully you already have that document, and every year you're going through it. If not, you know, discreetly let us know and we can talk to you about it. But you know, in that document, it talks about all these different programs that you're going through. One thing that we're seeing more and more is weak passwords. You know, as an industry, we're making it harder. We're telling people you need longer passwords and harder passwords. Unfortunately, what's harder to a human isn't as hard to a computer. And so I've got a couple slides that I'll show you some ways that we break in or crack these passwords. But unfortunately, what we want to do is talk about, it's not the complexity of the password that matters. We don't want you to have to try to remember these really hard, complex passwords, capital X, lowercase 3, you know, ampersand sign. You know, forget that. What you want to do is longer passwords are better, but turn it into a sentence. You know, so something like, you know, I love working with Kevin Carnes is a great password. It's not true. It's not true. But it is a much better password than an 8-character complex password. We're still finding, like I said, we're finding the keys to be able to get into your server rooms, or if you're using backup tapes, those backup hard drives, we'll see those sitting on someone's desk, and those things are easy to just pick up and walk off with. So the passwords. So one of the ways that I talked about that we get in is we do phishing campaigns against you to try to get you to click on a link. The other is through finding your passwords that have been leaked on the internet through other sites. And so often people are creatures of habit, and they'll use the same password on LinkedIn that they might use on their ADP payroll site, that they might use on the VPN to connect to your own network, because we're lazy. We don't want to remember a whole bunch of passwords. Unfortunately, when that happens and someone breaks into LinkedIn and publishes all those passwords, the millions of passwords online on the dark web or just on a regular website, people then download those and use those against you. So they'll see that you've registered on LinkedIn with @ocd.com, and then we'll try those passwords. We see that you use Microsoft Office 365 for email. We'll try to use that password on Office 365. If you don't have something like two-factor authentication turned on these cloud services, sometimes we get right in. And so we'll take passwords. We found passwords that were breached a year ago, a year and a half ago, that are valid for your internal networks. And that's still happening today. Something like two-factor authentication will stop that, but even better would be using different passwords on different machines. So we have equipment that can crack passwords, and it does not need to look like this. You know, these are huge supercomputers and data centers that people spend millions and millions of dollars on. These aren't used for password cracking. Something like this is what we use for password cracking. So this is just a regular computer that we bought at Best Buy or something like that. It's got 2 graphics cards that, you know, one of them my son uses for playing video games, and the other we use for cracking passwords all day long. And a whole bunch of storage. And so this machine runs all day, 24 hours a day, and then you can see in the back here is one of those little voltmeters. So we actually, for the fun of it, like to see how much energy it cost us to actually crack the passwords. And so it's about like 7 cents a password or something like that for be able to crack a password. And this is old equipment now. This is probably 3 or 4 years old worth of equipment. So we can crack anywhere from 10 to 15,000 passwords in under an hour with some of this equipment. And longer passwords, 14, 15 character passwords, we still can't crack, even with equipment like this. So the longer the passwords, the better. 8, 9, 10 character passwords we can get within a week. And so if we can do it within a week, other people are doing it within a week and then can use those passwords against you before the time you can change that password. We definitely use it as part of penetration testing. And like I said, we'll use these passwords against you. We go out on the dark web, download those same passwords that other people are using, and we've even automated it where we have Slack channels or team channels that will send us little notifications that said, you know, nom, 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 we just cracked another password, and then the whole team claps and things like that. And so, you know, we're not the only ones that are cracking these passwords. Other people are doing the same things. And so there's one of the things that we do is we will monitor for your company name. We monitor for our own company names. We look to see if we find passwords that have been breached out on the web. And if we find them, we'll let you know. You know, like, you know, these 3 people's passwords were just found. They should change them immediately. They should be changing them anyways. But, you know, we'll let them know that these passwords were changed, that these passwords were out there. The best thing that you can do, again, though, is don't reuse passwords across different services. It is definitely a pain to try to remember all those passwords. So get a password manager, get something that can help you know what the different passwords are. Don't use a naming convention like, you know, password LinkedIn or password O365, because if we see that you're using the name of the site that it was breached from in there, we'll just change that. You know, we use the same first part of the password on O365 or on Microsoft or on your company, and get in with the same type of password there. So the ability for us to get these passwords, so in the first, it's a little hard to see on this, but in the yellow there, those are plain text passwords that have already been cracked. They're out on the web already. Someone just has to log in with that user ID and password. The ones in purple are what they call hashes. Those are ones we have to put into our password cracking appliance. But again, we let it run 24/7. Mark pays the electric bill, and so We just, every once in a while, we get that little alert that says, num, 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 we just cracked another password. And so we'll go 24 hours a day just trying to grab these things. And when you engage with us to try to break into your network, this is one of the first places we're looking. You know, we don't have to do any heavy lifting. The passwords are out there already. So, you know, look at your employees' lists. You look at the cloud services that you're using and make sure that your employees are not clicking links and changing the passwords from different sites. I've done this slide type before. So if anyone guess what this is, other than Massachusetts. So all of these yellow, the darkness here, all of these purple and yellow, what they are is, these are Wi-Fi access points. So when you connect to a Wi-Fi, what people do is they drive around with equipment that goes in and records the Wi-Fi on the streets. And so there's sites that you can upload this information to. And so as part of the work that we do when we try to break into your network is we'll come in and you know, sit across the street at Starbucks, try to connect to the Wi-Fi. But before we even do that, we'll come to this site and see, has someone already done it? You know, has someone else already driven by your store and found that your Wi-Fi was vulnerable? And so as you get drilled down and get closer and closer, it starts to show the names of the actual Wi-Fi access points. And so before we even come on site, we might know the name of your Wi-Fi access point, the make and model of the vendor, the hardware. We'll look up and see, is that vendor have a vulnerability in it? And so by the time we drive up, we've already got a payload that we can use against you at the time. There's not much you can do about this other than making sure that you're constantly patching your Wi-Fi networks. Set strong passwords on the Wi-Fi keys. You can't hide the Wi-Fi, that doesn't do anything. We have other equipment that can see it, you know, even if you say that the name is hidden. So that part doesn't matter. But you do want to make sure that you're changing, not to change the password, but make sure that it's a strong password and that, you know, that you're patching the equipment. Who's hacking in? Not much has changed here either. It's still target of opportunity. You know, people are still spraying the entire internet to try to find the unlocked doors on cars at the low cost barrier to entry. You know, it's free. You just scan the internet looking for open connections. You know, they're not targeting you specifically. They're not looking for your car. They're just looking for that open door handle. There's software out there. We use this as well. In 45 minutes, we can scan the entire internet looking for an open door. And so if we can do this in 45 minutes, we can continuously do it. And companies that, or adversaries that are continuously doing it are then publishing this information to sites like this. Shodan is a company that is like the Google for everything else. So you go to Google to look for a Word document or a PDF, some type of information, a website that you're looking for. We go to sites like this, like Shodan, to try to find openings in your network. And so we might type your company name in here. We might have gotten an email from you at some point, and so we'll look at the IP address that it came from and then put that in here. We'll try to find some piece of information that lets us, helps us get into your network. So this was 700,000 plus opportunities just in the Massachusetts for us to be able to find some opening. These are 124 that we drilled down one layer deeper and said, you know, not only is it Massachusetts, but give us where it's all the default passwords. So this is 124 connections, not particularly you, but 124 connections that are in Massachusetts that already, this is the default password, someone's going to get in. These are wide open doors. And then we only need that one door to be open in your network in some way for us to be able to move throughout the entire network once we're in. That's all from the outside. The one thing that I do want to make sure that you look into is the insider threat. Your employees themselves, right? We're in a really, really weird, you know, employee time right now where people are walking across the street for a couple extra $100, $1,000, and who knows what they're going to take with them when they leave. So being able to make sure that you are watching what your employees are doing and how they're doing it and who has access to what on your network is going to be just as important as making sure that you're protecting from the outside. You know, do you allow your IT person to have full access to the entire network without going unchecked, right? Can that person do anything they want to your network? And one, either you're not checking on it, or two, you wouldn't even know where to start. You know, are they removing IT controls that makes it easier for them to do their job, or what they think is easier for them to do their job? Are they able to, because while working from home now, are they able to remote in easier? So did they remove some key controls that allowed them to remote in, but unfortunately allows everyone else to remote in as well? You know, did they open up those holes in the firewall to make their job easier, but unfortunately make it less secure? And then lastly, it's, you know, do you know where your customer's data is? We often talk to dealerships that think that all the data is in the DMS, and that there's no other information other than in the DMS, and the DMS takes care of protecting it all, and so that there's nothing for you to do. We've talked to dealerships where the manufacturers are now saying that they're providing all of the IT security controls, or the DMS is providing all the IT security controls, and that's just not the case. You know, the minute your CFO downloads an Excel spreadsheet, or someone in HR downloads an employee payroll file and puts it on a laptop, or takes it home, or unfortunately emails it to themselves because they want to work on it from home, because so many people are working from home now, that data is not protected by the manufacturer. It's not protected by the DMS provider. And so what are you doing for all those other machines to make sure that those are also getting the same level of protection that they should be, you know, maybe provided from the manufacturers of the DMS providers? If you don't know where that data is, you're not going to know how to protect it. So, key takeaways: turn on two-factor authentication for your remote services. Definitely Office 365 or Google email if you've moved to the cloud on those kinds of things. Those are cloud-based services, which means anybody on the internet can try to guess your passwords all day long on those. You know, Microsoft doesn't have an account lockout. You can keep trying your passwords over and over and over again until you get it right, which means anybody can try those passwords over and over. If you have some two-factor authentication, it's a total pain, but it completely stops us from being able to do that type of attack. Don't reuse the same passwords on site to site. Train your employees on what's a suspicious looking email. Don't get them to click those links. Phishing campaigns work. You know, we typically see 10 to 15% of the employees will click links when we start campaigns, and by the end of a year of employee awareness training and getting to see what a bad email looks like, that number can get down to 1 or 2%. Yeah, it only takes one person to click a link, but if you can reduce the number of people that do it, you know, you stand a better chance of, you know, the attackers going to a different company. And then, you know, make sure you're terminating all the access for those cloud providers. You know, we're using those cloud ADP payroll and things like that more and more. So when a key employee leaves, make sure that, you know, it's not enough to just remove the access from your local computer, local network. You know, you've got to go to all those additional cloud services and make sure you're removing it from there as well. So hopefully next year's slides are completely different and everything's good, but if not, I don't know. Then I'll have to retire, so. Anyone have any questions on IT right now?
You mentioned password manager.
Yeah.
What do you use personally, or what would you recommend as a service?
I personally use 1Password. Other people on my team use LastPass. The good thing about those tools, the cloud-based versions of those, is I have the same tool on my laptop that I have on my phone, and so the passwords synchronize in between there, and they'll put a plugin in the browser. So when you go to a website, it can automatically populate the password for you. So you can make the password 128 characters, it doesn't matter. You don't ever even have to know what the password is. It's putting it in there for you automatically. And then, because I don't know all those passwords, I think my vault has over 1,000 passwords in it. And about once a year, I print them all out, I give them to my attorney, he puts them in a safe. So I have the password vault for mine is 32 characters. It's a huge, long sentence. I don't use things like replacing the 1 with an exclamation point or the A with a @ symbol. The equipment we use to crack passwords knows that, and if it sees a 1 or an L, it'll immediately change it to an exclamation point to try. So, reversing those characters like that doesn't really help that much. It's really about the length of the password. So, anything else?
Does the mere fact if you open that email, does that let you in?
A couple controls to help prevent something from happening. So just opening the email won't matter, or it doesn't often matter. If you click on the link on the email, depending on where you clicked it, so if you clicked it on an iPhone, but the payload was meant for a Windows computer, it might not do anything. If you have Office macros disabled so that you can't, so that when you open up an Excel spreadsheet, it doesn't automatically execute, is another thing that you'll end up doing on it. So it's not always just the fact that the email has come up in the window inside Outlook or Google. But what ends up happening is they'll put these things called tracking cookies or tracking pixels in there. And so when you do open it in Outlook, or it opens in the preview pane in Outlook, they'll have a 1-by-1 pixel in there. And other companies like Facebook and Twitter, they all do the same thing. So now what ends up happening is I know that I've sent you that email, and I know now that your computer opened that email, and so it's told me, because you went and got that little 1-by-1 pixel, that you're real. There's a real human behind that. And so now I might try to automatically start sending you more information. We do it already in our marketing campaigns, right? You're doing this now. You send emails to people, and as soon as they open the email, you know that they're human, and 1 week from now, you're going to send them another email, and you're going to send them an email a month from now, and when you have a sale. So that same technique that they use for legitimate purposes, we use it on the dark side as well. So.
Can you just explain the phishing campaign, how that works?
Yep. Yeah, so we use a cloud vendor called KnowBe4 that, so if you wanted to have us train your employees on phishing, you would give us a list of all of the employees that you wanted in the campaign. We would then load them into our tool and start to create fake emails and send it out to your employees. What we would do is we'd start out with like really obvious emails that they shouldn't be clicking. If they do click them, they might get put in a bucket for some training. And so we'll start giving everyone training, a baseline, to see where everyone is. And then once a week, once a month, depending on the frequency, we'll start sending out emails. As people click the emails, they'll stay in this remedial training type bucket. If they see the email and report it as phishing, they might move up the ladder a little bit and say that this person's better at this. They're more apt at understanding and catching them. So what ends up happening is we'll send them a harder email. And so we'll keep sending them harder and harder emails until at the end of the campaign, it's you're down to 1-2% of the people that have been opening the emails. All throughout the year, typically these campaigns last throughout the year. All throughout the year, we'll send informational things about this is the type of when COVID first came out, there was all kinds of phishing emails that went out about COVID, when the shots came available, all those types of things. And so we'll send out reminders on what to look for, what makes a bad looking email, typical things like hurry up and do this now. I constantly get things like from Mark Dow that says, Mike, I'm in a conference right now. I want to give out gift cards to the recipients. Please go to CVS, get us about $600 worth of gift cards, scratch them off and give me the numbers so I can give people the cards. And so it's those types of things that will alert people to say these are what we typically see in phishing campaigns. At the same time, we'll send emails to employees to get them to spot those differences. If they do click on the link, they're immediately notified that this was a phishing email. This is why. This is the area on the email that you should have looked out for. They might have to watch a 5-minute video about what they did, and then we go to the next week. Thanks.